Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys are doing well. In today's video, I'd like to answer the question, why do Filipinos think foreigners are rich? Now, not all Filipinos think this way, okay? But in the Philippines, there is this very common assumption that foreigners are rich, especially if you are Caucasian. Now you will ask, why is that? Now, to better understand why this assumption exists, I'm going to go ahead and provide 5 to 6 reasons why. I'm going to start with the first one. So to better understand this, you have to look into the history of the country. The history of the Philippines includes several periods of colonization and invasion by European powers, primarily Spain and later the United States. These periods of colonization have significantly shaped the Filipino mindset of foreigners being wealthy. When Spain invaded the Philippines, the colonizers brought with them the idea of skin color hierarchy. Dark skin was associated with poor laborers who had to work outside just to make ends meet. And of course, the Spaniards never had to do this because they were the masters. They took the land from the people and they enslaved the people. Now, this invasion lasted for more than 300 years. And what I noticed is that even up to these days, those Filipinos with Spanish lineage remains to be some of the most powerful and wealthy people in the Philippines because they own a lot of land. Now, during the American occupation, the Americans took a very different approach. A lot of Filipinos look at Americans as the savior because if you look into the history, the Americans literally bought the Philippines from Spain. That was the Treaty of Paris in 1898. This marked the beginning of American rule, which lasted 48 years. And during this period, the Philippines saw a significant infrastructure development, including the building of the roads, schools, and public health systems. And all of this contributed to social and economic improvements in the country. Now, even up to these days, most Filipinos look at Americans as capable of making things better or making better things. That is why there is this preference for anything made in the USA. Anything imported from America is considered better and is sought after in the Philippines. Now, both of these occupations have significantly shaped the Filipino mindset of foreigners being wealthy. Now, let's move on to the next reason. Another reason why Filipinos think foreigners are rich is because they see this big difference in the standard of living. The quality of life is very different, especially if you compare, the quality of life in the Philippines versus the Western lifestyle. Now, I'm going to compare the US and the Philippines since I currently live here in the US. Now, in the Philippines, Filipinos who own a home with an air condition, appliances, those who own a vehicle, and those who can afford to travel abroad are wealthy Filipinos. And a lot of them outright own these things. Now, the big difference is like here in America, these are not really considered luxury. There are basic necessities. And I think most Filipinos also don't understand that Americans who have these things actually don't outright own them. Americans who have a home are on a 30-year, mortgage. Those who own multiple vehicles, a lot of times they have a loan payment that they're paying for at least 3, 5, even 7 years. And a lot of the nice things Americans have, they have it because of credit. So you don't have to be wealthy to have these things here because of utang. We call that utang in the Philippines, debt. Now in the Philippines, that is a big difference. Those Filipinos who have those things are actually wealthy. They actually outright own these things. And that's why I would say it's an illusion. All right, so that's why they have this, assumption that, oh, Americans, Westerners are rich because they have those things. Because in the Philippines, if you have those things, you are considered rich. Now, let's move on to the next reason. Another reason is the high value of the foreign currency. Now, Filipinos think foreigners are rich because their foreign currency is a lot more powerful and valuable than the Philippine peso. Now, when a Filipino hears of a foreigner making $2,000 every paycheck, they automatically start calculating the exchange rate. Let's say $1 is equivalent to 50 pesos. So that person who's making $2,000 here in the US, that would be equivalent to 100,000 pesos every 2 weeks in the Philippines. So that's a lot of money there. That's the reason why a lot of Filipinos are working abroad or wanting to work abroad because let's say if you're working in the Middle East, for example, and even if you're only making $1,000, every paycheck, that's equivalent to 50,000 pesos in the Philippines. So that can definitely support your family. And I think people don't also really think of people just focus on the conversion. They don't realize that, yes, you might be making in dollars, but you're also spending in dollars. Like $2,000 nowadays is just enough for a month's rent, unfortunately. All right, so another reason why there is this assumption of foreigners being wealthy is Filipinos see this tourist and expat lifestyle. Many Filipinos can't afford international travel. Those Filipinos who can afford to travel abroad are usually from the upper class Filipino families. So when Filipinos see this tourist lifestyle in the Philippines, they assume that all these tourists, vacationing in the Philippines are wealthy. Of course, when people are vacationing, they are also spending all this money on accommodations, whether that's hotels, resorts, high-end restaurants. They're having a blast, they're partying, spending all this money, and people see this. The locals see this and they think, wow, these people have endless amount of money to spend on these luxurious things that we will never experience in our lifetime. Now, again, it's an illusion if you really think about it, because a lot of I have a little bit of a story. I used to work with people that would penny and dime all year just to be able to have this 2 3 weeks vacation in Europe. And that's a choice. Some people would do that, would save that money and would live very frugal just to have that kind of experience. Now, unfortunately, people from those countries, the Philippines, one of them, they think, wow, these people have endless amounts of money. They don't realize that these people, when they're, throughout the year here in the US, they're living very frugal just to have those 2 to 3 weeks, blast on a vacation. So again, it's an illusion. All right, let's talk about the expat lifestyle. Now, Americans, for example, who are retired in the Philippines, let's say you're getting $1,000 to $2,000, from your Social Security every month. Now, here in the U.S., I mean that will only cover for your, rent. That's not gonna cover everything else. But in the Philippines, that will provide you a cushy, nice retirement. So locals see that, a lot of these retirees in the Philippines, at least they're able to afford, a nice little house they're renting with an air conditioning. Again, air conditioning is actually considered luxury in the Philippines. Most people who have air conditioning are considered wealthy because majority of the population can't afford it. Actually, I'm going to segue a little bit. In the Philippines, there's this thing called senior citizen, like they give ID cards to senior citizens, and they also give, they call aid or ayuda. But to be able to qualify for this, they will actually, well, some places they would actually visit the home of this senior citizen, to determine if you qualify for this aid. I remember my dad, they have these people visiting the home of my parents, and they did not qualify. You know why? Because the home had a bathroom inside the house, and the home was cemented. So that's like some of the things they're looking at. They're like, wow, if you have a bathroom inside the home, then you're not really poor, you're wealthy. See, that is the big difference. Another reason why this assumption exists is because of what Filipinos see on television. Growing up in the Philippines 4 decades ago, most of my perception of what the Western life was like, especially the American life, was based on what I saw in the movies. In the movies, everything nice, tall buildings, big highways, opportunity, people living a nice life. That's what the American dream is all about. That's what people see in the other side of the world. Now, nowadays, you have social media, and most people see these influencers flaunting their luxurious lifestyle, big homes, big cars, I mean, big everything, lots of glitz and glamour. That's what people see. And unfortunately, all of this give this perception of just, overwhelming wealth. But I would mention this. What's nice about social media and the internet nowadays is that there's also a lot of independent creators out there showing the other side of America. Actually, I sent a couple of videos to my friend in the Philippines, and she said, wow, I didn't realize that some parts of America is very poor. This content creator named Peter Santanello, I think is his last name. He goes to this, places, states in America that's really destitute and really poor. I think last time he went to the Rust Belts of the US. Again, what's nice about independent, I guess, news or content creators giving this side of America is that it gives the whole picture, because what most people see is just a nice thing. But nowadays, all of this information is available online, people can see that not all Americans are rich, not all, Americans are living the good life. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the last one. Now, I'm not sure if I was going to include this one, but I thought I'm going to use this to just sum this up. So it's all about really perception. Now, I'm going to use this as an example. There's a lot of Filipinos who are married to foreigners living here in the US. And a lot of times they do end up giving this perception of being wealthy, whether that's intentional or unintentional. Now, in the Philippines, Filipinos, we are known for sharing, sharing the blessing to others, especially when it comes to the family, extended family, and friends. So there is this, it's become a part of our culture, this balikbayan boxes. If you're married to Filipina, you probably know what this is. So these are cargo boxes that Filipinos send to their loved ones to the Philippines, filled with goodies like imported goods, you name it, Spam, Nikes, chocolates. I mean, everything that's, you know, we think our families won't be able to afford to buy in the Philippines. Now, the intention is good. The intention is to share the blessing, the desire to like share the good life to our loved ones. If we could box a little bit of that and send them to them, we will do that. The problem is there are some people who do this to show up, that sense of like pride, which is good and bad. They want to prove that they're better off, they're having a good life. But unfortunately, that also gives this perception of wealth, which most people actually don't have. So these are the reasons why Filipinos think foreigners are rich. Now, as I've mentioned, not all Filipinos think this way. Some Filipinos, especially those who have lived abroad, are aware of geographical circumstances and currencies in the world, and they know that not all foreigners are all rich. Now, of course, locals who have never been really outside of the Philippines, they have this assumption, and you can't really blame them because, I mean, you see the difference when it comes to the standard of living, how people live, whether foreigners are living abroad or foreigners living in the Philippines. There is a big difference. And the locals a lot of times they live a very difficult life, and they see that the foreigners living there, they live a pretty good life compared to the local. So again, it's not just perception, it's the reality. I mean, majority of foreigners, not everybody obviously, but majority of foreigners are living a much better life than, the locals in the Philippines. I'm going to end this video here. I hope you enjoy this video. If you'd like to share your opinion, you're more than welcome to do that in my comment section below. Bye one. Bye everyone.